You know, if we want to make sense of the world around us, we first have to learn how to describe it. So today, we're diving into the fundamental language that powers everything from AI to business analytics. We're learning the language of data.
I mean, think about it. We are absolutely swimming, maybe even drowning, in a sea of information. You've got social media feeds, scientific studies, sales reports. It can feel like total chaos. So the huge question is, where do you even start? How do we take all of that noise and find a clear signal?
Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. We start by learning its language. And the grammar of data, if you will, is classification. By sorting all that messy information into logical types and categories, we unlock its structure. We start to see the stories that were hidden inside all along.
All right, so let's start at the very top, the first and biggest distinction you can make. At the highest level, pretty much all data falls into one of two buckets. It's either structured or it's unstructured.
Okay, the best way to get this is with a really simple analogy. Think of structured data as a perfectly organized spreadsheet. You know, everything has its place, all neat and tidy in rows and columns. Unstructured data, that's more like a scrapbook, a creative jumble of emails, photos, random notes, all thrown together without any kind of predefined model.
So just to make it super clear, your structured stuff is exactly what you'd think. Excel files, customer tables in a database, that kind of thing. Unstructured data is all that other rich, kind of messy content, the actual text of an email, the pixels that make up an image, the audio from a video, or all the content you might scrape from a web page.
Okay, so we've got the basic form of the data down, but we can get way more specific. Let's peel back another layer and look at two other key properties, how data relates to time and how complex it is.
A fantastic way to visualize this is to imagine you're holding a camera. Cross-sectional data is like taking a single snapshot. It's all the data you capture in one specific moment in time. But time series data, that's like recording a movie. It captures how things are changing over a sequence of time. For example, say you run a survey all on one Tuesday. That's cross-sectional. The grade students get on one single exam, also cross-sectional. But the daily price of a stock that you track for a whole year, or a company's monthly sales figures going back 5 years, that's time series. You're literally watching the story unfold over time.
And the last piece of this puzzle is complexity. Are we just looking at one single thing, like a simple list of student heights? Well, that's called univariate data. Or are we looking at multiple, interconnected things at once, like a dataset with student heights and their weights and their ages? Now you're in the world of multivariate data.
Okay, now we're going to zoom in even further. Right down to the fundamental building blocks of any dataset, the variables themselves. And first up, let's talk about the variables that act like labels or categories.
So categorical variables, their whole job is to sort data into groups. Just think of them as putting labels on things. And these labels really come in two main flavors. They're either nominal or they're ordinal.
Nominal variables are the simplest. They're just names for different categories, and there's no inherent ranking or order to them at all. For instance, male and female are two distinct categories, but one isn't higher or better than the other. Same deal with colors like red, blue, or green. They're just different. That's it.
Now, ordinal variables. These have a secret ingredient, order. The categories have a meaningful sequence, a clear rank. But, and this is a big but, the distance between those ranks isn't necessarily equal or even defined. Education level is a perfect example of this. We all know there's a clear order here, right? A master's comes after a bachelor's, which comes after high school. But is the gap in time or effort between finishing high school and getting a bachelor's the exact same as the gap between a master's and a postgrad degree? Almost definitely not. That's the whole essence of ordinal data.
Oh, and customer ratings? A classic case. You know for sure that a 5-star rating is better than a 4-star one. The order is obvious. But think about it. Is the jump in your happiness between a 4 and a 5 the exact same as the jump between a 1 and a 2? Who knows? And this is really important because if a business just treats these ratings like numbers and takes the average, they might be making a really flawed decision.
All right, enough with the categories and labels. Let's get into the world of pure numbers. This next group of variables is all about quantities we can actually measure.
Numerical variables. This is what most of us think of when we hear the word data, stuff we can measure. And they come in two main forms. First, you've got discrete variables, which are things you can count in whole numbers, like how many cars are in that parking lot. And then you have continuous variables, which can take any value in a range, like your exact height, down to the tiniest fraction of a millimeter.
Now, inside the world of numerical data, there's this subtle but incredibly important distinction, and it all comes down to one simple idea: the meaning of the number 0. You see, both interval and ratio variables have meaningful, consistent gaps between their values, but only one of them has what we call a true 0.
So here's the key takeaway. For interval data, like temperature in Celsius, 0 degrees doesn't mean the absence of temperature, right? It's just another point on the scale. But for ratio data, like weight, a value of 0 kilograms literally means no weight, nothing. That true 0 point is what gives ratio data some extra mathematical superpowers. Phew, okay, we have covered a lot of ground. We've gone from the biggest, broadest forms of data all the way down to the nitty-gritty types of variables, so let's just take a second to put it all together and see why this stuff really matters.
So here it is, the whole hierarchy in one spot. A nice little cheat sheet. We start with our two main families, categorical data for our labels and numerical data for our numbers. And then within each of those families, we have the specific types we just talked about. Honestly, having this mental model in your back pocket is so useful when you come across a new dataset.
So why on earth did we go through all of this? Because understanding your data's type is, well, it's everything. You can't calculate the average color. It makes no sense. You can't mathematically prove that a 4-star rating is exactly twice as good as a 2-star one. The type of variable you're working with dictates the kind of math you can do, the charts you can build, and ultimately, the truth you're able to find.
So, by learning how to classify data, you've basically learned its language. You now have the tools to go beyond just staring at a bunch of numbers and to start having a real conversation with them. So the only question left is, what do you want to ask?